Hi everyone, welcome back to the Moving to Australia podcast. Today we are talking to Jedidiah Macaraeg, who graduated with an Advanced Diploma in Telecom Network from Australian College of Information Technology in 2017. Jedd received his state-nominated visa subclass 1 and 0 from Victoria on August 19, 2024, and is now a permanent resident. Welcome, Jedd. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And joining me in the studio is Amitava and Irene as well. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Hi.
How is everyone? And Jedd, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time. You are in Manila right now, and you'll be coming very soon, I believe.
That's correct.
Oh.
I'm planning very soon.
Oh, good.
Jedd, you came to Australia to visit family in Brisbane. What made you stay back?
That's very interesting, actually. The very motivation for me to visit Australia back then was to visit family, and it was meant to be a 2-week planned holiday. But then I was introduced into the education system of Australia. I had no intention of leaving the country really to live or work or elsewhere. So I looked into it, did my own research, and eventually, why not, right? I'm going to pay for a visa anyway. Why not make it a different type of visa to extend my stay instead of a 2-week holiday? So that was the intention that time. And I think it was a good decision to be introduced to it.
Now, were you always keen on moving to Gold Coast for a diploma, or it just sort of worked out when you decided to pursue an overseas degree?
Well, part of the introduction for me was, if you're going to study, I think it might be best to stay on the field that you've studied anyway or worked on. So looked for schools which was in the area of Queensland and hopefully not too far from Brisbane. And that's how I landed in the Gold Coast and eventually locating Australian College of IT.
Now your diploma, I believe, was a 2-year program?
Yes.
So tell us a bit about your university there. What's it like being in Gold Coast?
Gold Coast is a beautiful place. It's very tropical and it's not very far from where I came from, Philippines. The weather particularly is what I'm very keen on. The beaches, the lifestyle, the outdoor lifestyle and the vibrant nightlife. Back then when I was sort of a few years younger was very attractive to me. The school itself was not very far from that area. So it was very attractive for, say, single and young individual.
Okay, so how was your lifestyle different in Manila if you had to compare it with your lifestyle in Gold Coast when you were a student there?
In Manila, I grew up in a city. It was purely CBD for me from when I had my own thinking. But in the Gold Coast, even if it was advertised as if, this is still a city, it didn't feel that way. It felt very calm, very laid back. I know that's a word mostly used for Australia, but it's actually very true. You don't feel the pressure or the busy and the bustling of the actual CBD. So there are parts of Gold Coast where it can get very busy, but the part where I've stayed, at least, it was well balanced. I got enough air in my lungs, then I also got the convenience and the technology of what you'd expect in a city.
Now, you worked as an IT officer in the Philippines for about 2 years. And after completing your diploma, you were hired full-time as an IT service desk engineer. So how
Correct.
would you compare and contrast professional life in Australia with that in Philippines?
Working in Australia might offer different challenges and opportunities. Although both countries, Philippines and Australia, are multicultural anyway, so you would be exposed to different type of nationalities and ethnicities. However, in Philippines, I believe, in my perspective, it's still very, very culturally strong. And that depends on what type of company you belong to, whether that's an international company or that's a local company. what I've experienced in Australia is you get the level of respect that you didn't get when I was in Philippines, and that was refreshing for me. That you're not pushed to a direction that you really don't want to go, or if you are pushed, you are still given the opportunity to decide for yourself. So I think that the balance between the pressure of of an of a professional level, but at the same time giving you the reins that it's actually your choice anyway.
Is that also a big difference in terms of leadership in both countries, and also the opportunities given to you in the company to grow individually?
Yes, very much so. The opportunity to grow, I would say in Australia when I was working there, even if you do see the ceiling of the roles itself, at this point you're either a senior or a manager, and even if you're given that ceiling, you are still exposed to different opportunities that, okay, if you don't want to stay with us, but you get experience or at least exposure in this area, then maybe when you move on, which are very supportive, even if you do move out of their company, they would give you a glowing recommendation. That's slightly different in Philippines. They're more territorial. That if you leave them as an employee, they felt like the investment on you was wasted. Which maybe it's not true for all companies in the Philippines, but I've felt that.
So they're quick to sabotage with you when you want to move on.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
It felt like, okay, I cannot move because I'm bonded by either the years is not enough to clear that bond, or you're just not being offered to move on with the thoughts of improvements for your part. Sorry, maybe if I'm being a bit critical there.
Give some backstory on how you found DMS to help you out with your visa.
To be fair and to be honest, with Amitava, I think if I'm not wrong, the HR director in my previous job, his name is Simon Tuffrey. He gave me. Do you remember him, Amitava?
Rings a bell, yeah.
Rings a bell, yeah. He at that point, Wyndham, the company that I was with, did not have the authority to be my visa employer, or to invite me, right? I forgot the term for that.
Sponsor you.
Thank you. To sponsor me as an employer, and they were very honest with that. But then Simon Joffrey offered me, I think it were 3 or 4 names, and say, oh, these are the people who are experts in immigration. We're sorry that we couldn't do more for you as a company, but try these people or try these companies. And when I got them, I sent email to all of them, and I think it's only Amitava who responded. And from then on, we exchanged information. It was a lengthy process because I wasn't also sure whether it's something I want. But then Amitava was offering more than just immigration services. There were some life advices there and some realizations that I didn't see it that way. So thank you, Amitava.
Do most IT professionals in Gold Coast work in the hotel and F&B industry?
I got involved with different IT as well, with different IT fields. I say no. Like a very small amount of IT are in the hotel industry. I'd say they are more in either retail or telco. They're more into that. But then I wouldn't excuse the number of IT in, say, Marriott or Wyndham and all these sister companies, Mantra. The IT department is not massive though, because they would invest more in sales managers and hotel people. That's to my knowledge.
That's completely different to what I would read about. Oh, what's the biggest employer in Gold Coast? It would be the hospitality because of the beaches and the lifestyle there. So you would assume that many people who would end up there would probably work in that industry or in and around that industry. But it's good to know it's telecom and
No,
retail.
they'll have limited IT requirement, and mostly they outsource their IT.
Yes.
So does it go to the Philippines or India or both?
I might not be the best person to answer that.
Now, how did you find the locals in Gold Coast? Did you find it easy to connect with the people right away and feel at home? Or is it really hard to make friends there?
Honestly, personally for me, I think that still depends on you, on your personality as a person, your character. But if I am going to share my experience, I am not a very sociable person. I would be the last person on the table who would get a dance, if that makes sense. Um, but they're very sensitive at work. My whole time in Australia was just work, and the people I would encounter would be the same people at work. I would get invited to Sunday barbies and things like that, but those are my colleagues, which I do see them every day. Uh, I don't think I got any friends outside of my work, but at the same time, that was very beneficial for me because it built a rapport for me when we're out on the weekends and we come back to work. It made it more easy to connect when I work with them. So I'd say it's easy. No, I wouldn't say it's easy, but there are learning curves there because they're also not sure, depending on what country you come from. My first year or so, they always confused me from where I came from, maybe how I speak, maybe how I look. Uh, and they thought they would always guess the wrong country, and I'd go, no, it's actually Philippines. Really? And then it's not really saying that the other is lesser than the other. It's more of, oh, I didn't know that. It's too diverse, and they're welcome to that change, which made me feel home.
Oh, that's good to know. Now, you spent about 3-4 years in Queensland, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, yes.
So how would you describe the rental housing situation there right now?
I heard from a friend, which I might be wrong, that this year or the last, the housing has increased. But when I was there, uh, I think 2 years ago, it depends on where part of Queensland you are. So I rented in Brisbane and I also rented in the Gold Coast. In Brisbane, if you're in the area, it can bump up to $200 to $300, but that's already a house unit, a regular Queenslander, um, what they call it there, and that's per week with all the amenities and all the carport, and it's I think if you are working and you are in a decent job opportunity, it breaks even. Yeah. You will get your food on your table and you'll be able to pay your bills if you do budget it properly. When I moved to the Gold Coast, it was more lenient. When I was there, uh, I think I was paying $150 weekly for an apartment unit, and it was a bit of a distance from work, but I didn't mind that because it was coastal.
Were you renting it out by yourself or were you sharing the accommodation with someone else?
I was sharing. I was actually renting just a room. So to be fair, it might not be a good comparison because the $200 to $300 was actually a full house, whilst the 150 was a room with a bed spacer.
Now, have you had the chance to travel within Australia ever since you got here? And if so, how does Queensland compare to other states, in your opinion?
I've only been outside of Queensland once, and that's to Sydney, and that was to renew my passport. That was roughly 3 days, I think, and I went back. Uh, in Queensland, however, I've been on my free time or during weekends, I would drive around, normally around the Gold Coast, because I don't really like the traffic in Brisbane. But if necessary, sure. It's nice. Personally, I'm a beach person. If I get to choose between the mountains or the beach, I'd take beach any other day. Uh, but then again, that's me.
Who has better beaches, Queensland or Sydney?
I'll have to try Sydney first. It's just I think the air is different. The people are different. it's just a good drive. Very scenic. There are areas in Philippines that are also similar, but because of also of the diversity and the depends on what region you're part of, and it can be a bit of a learning curve, even if you do go to those areas.
What advice would you give to young IT professionals who want to build a career in Australia?
Look, if you're looking for more than just work, Australia is a great place. It's a great place to network, to stay up to date to technological trend, because clearly they're not behind. If you wanna know, if you wanna break through your ceiling, right? From say, this is what I always tell my friends or someone who asks me, "Oh, why do you have to leave the country? Does that mean you're not satisfied with the country?" It's not that. It's not about satisfaction, but it's understanding that the world is bigger than your own country. And it's just putting yourself out there and seeing how it all fits and what's your roots or your purpose finally.
Thank you for your time, Jedd. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Irene. Thanks, Amitava.
Thank you, Jedd. Hope to see you soon in Australia.
That would be lovely to finally meet you in person. Thank you.
Yeah, if you do come down to Sydney, please drop in to our office.
For sure.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye.